Chip my nail. Who said reading wasn't dangerous? Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and turn on your post notifications so you don't miss any of my uploads. As you can tell by the title of this video, today I'm going to be showing you all the books that I read in January. If I'm being honest, January was one of the best reading months that I've had ever in my entire life. Not just because I read a lot of books, but because most of the books that I read I actually really enjoyed. What more can you want from a reading month than to enjoy all the books that you read? So let's talk and reach our many Enni endings. The books that I'm going to be covering in this video are actually going to be in chronological order. I think chronological order is super interesting because I want to see my development through the month and what mood I was in to read what particular book. So the first book that I have on this list is There Will Come a Darkness by K. Rose Poole. I actually started reading this in December and I finished it on January 2nd, I believe. So it technically shouldn't be in my January TBR, but I did finish it in January, so I'm going to include it. Because it's my channel, I make the rules, okay? There Will Come a Darkness is a book about a few different characters who ultimately come together, or their stories get interwoven as they try to beat this prophecy and save all of humanity from a darkness that's looming. And they all have different parts in how they play into this storyline, which I thought was super interesting. For me, I really love character-driven books. That's why some of my favorite books include Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. But I was super interested to pick this book up because it did have a similar storyline to Six of Crows. This book switches from different points of view, which I thought was super interesting. What I really enjoyed about this book was the fact that it did switch from different POVs, so we got to follow different characters and their timelines and their storylines, which I thought I really liked. However, the plot is a little bit lacking for me. I ended up giving this book a 3 out of 5 stars, which means that it was still a really good read. I enjoyed it while it lasted, but it wasn't the best book that I've ever read. I think because this is such a large book and it follows so many points of views that this story could have been longer, or that there's something lacking about the plot that I just didn't want to get attached to. I just thought it was missing a little something extra that would make me pull harder for this book. Now, the next set of books that I read in January that I absolutely adored, it's become one of my favorite series, and that is the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson. This story is about a high school girl who wants to be known as the girl who solved the long lost cold case murder mystery that the school that she now currently attends occurred at. If you've been watching my videos, you know that I have been dying to read more murder mysteries and just mysteries in general. I feel like it's a genre that I continue to love, but I just don't explore enough into it. So every month I'm trying to focus on a mystery or read a mystery, and this was the perfect series to start off that kind of new genre and outlet in books. I love Truly Devious so much that I ended up binging the whole series in a matter of 2 days. Again, if you watch my videos, you know that I adore series that I can binge, and you know that when I binge series, I love them. That's exactly what happened here. As you can see, they're heavily tabbed because I loved every single page of all of these books. If I had to choose a favorite, it would be the second book, which is The Vanishing Stair. But the third book, The Hand on the Wall, takes a close second favorite for me. But again, I love all these 3 books individually, and I highly recommend to read this book if you do want to start getting more into murder mysteries, because this was such an easy read. The storyline is so great. The characters are amazing. So definitely a highly rated series. I think the lowest rating I gave these books was a 4.5. So definitely fell in love with these books. The next book I read in January is actually a book that got released in January, and it was one of my anticipated reads for 2021. And if you saw from my book haul and vlog video, which will be linked up here and in the description box if you haven't yet, I was actually able to pick up Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas a few days before the actual release date. I love Angie Thomas's work. I was super excited to read Concrete Rose because it follows a 17-year-old boy named Mac who ends up having a baby and becoming a father as a teenager. If that's not complicated enough, he is also a part of a gang. So I was really interested to hear his story, to hear his side, and see his character develop from being a teenager who was gangbanging to a teenager who is now a father looking out for his son. And honestly, my favorite part about this book was the language or the rhetoric that was used in order to display kind of the emotions and the character and the development between different interactions with groups of people. Y'all know know I don't read contemporary often, and the thing that I really enjoy about Angie Thomas's writing is the atmosphere or the character's voice that she displays. I think that's super important, especially someone who is so character driven like me. I enjoy learning about all the characters and their opinions and the way they think, and I think it's always a great thing, especially when hearing own voices stories. So if you haven't read it, I highly suggest you picking it up, because I ultimately rated this a 4.5 out of 5. The next book that I picked up in January, but I actually still have not finished, is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Red Rising has been a book that I wanted to start and read for so long now, and I'm still really excited to read this, and I do plan on reading it this year at the latest. But the reason why I haven't finished it is because it was kind of dense, or more dense than I would have liked during the moment and time that I was in January, which was towards kind of the middle end of January when I picked up this book. And I wanted something that was more light, or not light, but wasn't so dense. So I did not finish it, and I had to have a little cold DNF because I just couldn't get through the pages the way I would like, and I know I love the storyline, so I wanted to give the appropriate time and place for me to actually digest this book and actually enjoy and read through the book, and not just constantly reading at words and not actually feeling anything towards the book. Which led me to read Wilder Girls by Rory Powers. This book was interesting, to say the least. I've seen this book around so many times. Every time I go to Barnes & Noble, I feel like I always gravitate to this book, but I never picked it up. Again, in my vlog video, I ended up picking up this book, and now I read it in January, and I actually really liked this book. I don't know if people consider this a mystery or not, but it does kind of solve a mystery in that there's a girl who is seeking or trying to find her best friend who has gone missing. However, the storyline gets a little complicated or unique because the girls that are talked about in this book are actually on an isolated island because they are in a quarantine. Yes, I was triggered by that word too. Because the girls that went to this school that was on this island, and everything on this island basically has been affected with the tox. Now, the tox is not an ordinary virus or anything like that. It actually mutilates their bodies, which is why the cover looks the way it does. And each of the girls are affected by the tox differently. Some people's limbs fall off, some people are missing their eyes, some people get crocodile or reptile tails. So it's very, very different and odd. Definitely trigger warnings for body horror. I did not even know that was a thing that existed or was a thing that expressed what this book was. But now I know, and I'm telling you all that it does get a little gory at times, and the descriptions are kind of odd. Honestly, when I picture it in my head, it just looks wild. So yeah. Was it a great book? Yes. I ended up rating it a 3.5 out of 5. I felt like the conclusion ended very strangely, but nonetheless, it was still a great read. Now, this next book that I read in January is one of the most anticipated books that I was looking forward to reading in January, or at least this year, because this is a very long series, and honestly, I'm here for it. I'm currently reading the second book to the series, and if you haven't guessed yet, the book that I read in January is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I am a new Sarah J. Maas fan. I read Crescent City and the ACOTAR series in December, and I just absolutely fell in love with her writing. I think she's phenomenal. I think the world that she builds is phenomenal. And of course, I was super excited to pick up Throne of Glass and pick up this series because I've only heard such great things. Ended up giving it a 3.5 out of 5 stars, which again is a great read to me. Was it phenomenal? Did it make me cry? Did it make my heart wrench? Kind of, not really. But I still really like the world, the characters, and the storyline. If you didn't know what Throne of Glass is, it's one of the series by Sarah J. Maas, and in this series we follow a girl who is also a famous assassin in this world, who was kept as a prisoner because she had finally gotten caught for all her actions. But one day, the crown prince of this kingdom had given her an offer to let her go out of prison if she agreed to be his assassin in this competition where the king needs to choose basically his personal assassin. Crown Prince thought that she was the best candidate, and so she goes through these trials and she needs to prove herself, and we get to find out if she ends up worthy and where she basically ends up. As you can tell, this is highly tabbed, and I'm super excited about reading this series as well because my friends and I on Booktube, you probably already know them, but Mel from Mel Reads, Lisa from Bound and Bookmarked, as well as Kristen from Books and More with with Christian G. We agreed to do a Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants type of thing, but with books. The first book that we're doing that with is Throne of Glass, and so I highly tabbed this and actually wrote some things in the book itself because I'm gonna be shipping this to Jaleesa, so when she gets to read Throne of Glass, she'll also read alongside with me. And then we're just gonna keep passing it on. I thought that was a super exciting idea, so I was super excited to read this and then be able to ship it to my friend to also have her read it. I'm super excited for the rest of the series. I know it gets super wild and I'm here for it. I'm ready for the wild ride and I'm just super excited overall to read this entire series. Now at this point in January, we're actually towards the end of January and it was actually my birthday weekend. Thank you everyone who tuned into my birthday live stream. I appreciate y'all so much. I had such a great time and I hope you all had a great time as well. Even though it started off a little chaotic. If you know, you know. And if you didn't know already, I do weekly reading sprints on my channel every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Next time I have a live stream and you also want to read along with me, join into the live stream that Monday afternoon. Anyways, back to the end of January. After my birthday weekend, my friends thought so cleverly that we should have a 24-hour readathon. No, where I stay up for 24 hours after the day that I was celebrating my birthday. Yeah, I mean, that was just the best idea, you know. Needless to say, I definitely failed the 24-hour readathon. I was supposed to read a bunch of books, but I ended up only reading 2 books. But I'm not gonna beat myself up about it because the first book that I read on this readathon was actually a book so long that it actually could be 3 different books. And that was my reread of A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I had to reread A Court of Mist and Fury because the following day of the readathon was actually Mel's Runs Along, where I was gonna be sharing my thoughts and my ideas and all my comments that I had on A Court of Mist and Fury. Like I said, I read the ACOTAR series in December, but I read it on my phone. So I definitely had to reread it and tab all of the things that I loved about this book because y'all should already know I gave Akhimov a 5 out of 5. Honestly, one of my favorite books. And I know Akhimov is super popular because of the smut scenes that are in this book, but I honestly love this series and this book in particular because of the interactions and the relationship that builds between 2 of the main characters. Honestly, so beautiful, and I think it's so intimate, and that's something I really adore about this book. So if you haven't read this series, I highly, highly, highly recommend you pick it up. The second book that I picked up in the 24-hour readathon was actually Then She Was Gone. Mel from Mel Reads actually gifted this for me for my birthday, so thank you, Mel. Yes, this is a mystery book that follows a mom whose daughter actually disappeared about 10 years ago. At this point of her life, the mom has now buried her daughter, but she still doesn't understand how her daughter disappeared and why she ended up dead in the first place. However, there's definitely a turn of events because the mom actually has some new relationships that arise that are very, very strange, and that a lot of the things in her daughter's case actually relate or is discussed in this new relationship that she has. I mentioned another Lisa Jewell book in my mysteries book that I want to read video, which will be up here and in the description box. I was super excited when this came in the mail because I got a chance to actually read Lisa Jewell's work, and I have to say she's an amazing writer. I think she's really talented in building anticipation up, especially for this mystery. I ended up giving it a 3.5 because I did enjoy the book, but it still was a little bit predictable. Again, I'm very new to this genre, so I don't know what criteria is best. Still, it was a great book. It was a great read. It was a really fast read, which I enjoyed. You know, I'd be sitting around for like 4 hours reading fantasy books. So I finished this in about 2 hours. And there's some tabs in here, and I just really enjoy the ride of putting clues together and figuring out how the book is supposed to end. It gave me that, so 3.5. Now, the last book that I picked up in January and read but have not finished is Wings of Ebony by JL. I actually mentioned this book in my last video, and it's super special to me because this is one of the first books that I actually mentioned in my new channel series called Say Yes to the Book. If you haven't watched that book, click up here or in the description box so you can watch it after. This book follows a girl who's half human, half god, and of course, because she's a half human, half god, she has some special powers. However, she only has this power because it is based based out of human suffering. So without human suffering, she doesn't get powers and vice versa. I'm only 30 pages into the book so far, but it definitely kicks up really fast and I'm super intrigued and super excited to finish this book. Also, I just want to shout out JL because the way that she did this book release and book tour was super dope to me. She had an incentive in that anyone who pre-ordered her book, they actually matched the donation to donate a book into an inner city school or library or organization, so one of the kids or youth in there would have a copy. And I just thought that was super dope, and I appreciate authors who kind of go the extra mile to help and assist youth who are underprivileged, who don't always have the best books around, don't have new releases in their library. To have a chance to read this book, an own voices book at that, with Black girl representation, I just absolutely adored that and have space to appreciate that extra mile that she went on to serve her community as well. But yeah, y'all, like I said, the most productive and best reading month I've ever had in my entire life. I just counted it. I have read a total of 11 books in January, and I just can't believe I read that many. Even though I didn't finish some, I'm still gonna count 11 because I did read at least 20 pages into each book, and I do plan on finishing them. So it's 11, okay? And the fact that I gave all the books that I've read above a 3-star says something about this month, and I was super excited and I'm super glad because it was also my birthday month. So I had a fantastic month overall. But yeah, y'all, leave it in the comment section below. Tell me what was your favorite read of January. Honestly, if I had to choose, I would either choose Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson or Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. I really cannot choose between the two, but I just want to say the fact that these are also not fantasy books are also telling you my own character development, and I just want to applaud myself, okay? But alright everyone, don't forget to like, share, and comment while you're down there. If you want to read any of the synopsis of these books, they will be linked in the description box below, along with links to my Amazon wishlist, my bookshop, and all the ways to connect with me. Thank you all so much for watching. You are all amazing, and until next time, bye y'all.